Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the We Believe Digital Studios in Jackson, Mississippi for our twice weekly news break show. Got a 30-minute show, maybe about 14 different stories to share with you today. We're always glad when you join us at the We Believe Studios. We can be viewed on YouTube, Facebook, or WeBelieveDigital.com. We're happy to have you enjoying the content, liking the content, subscribing to the channel, which is free, sharing the links with your friends and all, and who knows, maybe able to send some stars on Facebook or make donations. And we're always seeking additional advertising to help defray the costs of operating the studio. We got some wonderful advertisers now, and we're always looking to add to that mix. So once again, thank you so much for joining us. My name is Chris Young, and we'll start out in Jackson, Hinds County. Yesterday, local legal groups voiced their concerns about the Hinds County ballot shortages on Elections Day. You know, this was a really big deal. It appears that maybe a couple of hundred people didn't get to vote somehow, around these ballot shortages and the shortages of the different styles of ballots, and the not being enough ballots in certain precincts, way too many ballots, excess ballots in other precincts. So legal groups, including Mississippi Center for Justice, the Legal Defense Fund, and Mississippi Vote, spoke outside the Hinds County Courthouse on Thursday. They said they're committed to finding out exactly what went wrong on the election day, which was November 7th, and want to ensure it never happens again. Well, they're not the only ones. This has reached national attention. The U.S. House chair probes the ballot shortages in Mississippi's largest county. Amir Badat, the voting rights attorney for the Legal Defense Fund, explained what legal options exist to find answers. He says there's several tools available. With respect to the public records requests that have been submitted, if there's no response to those records, then the Public Records Request Act allows the individual making the request or organization making the request to file a complaint with the Ethics Commission or enforce that request and the compliance that request before the Chancery Court. So this is an option he indicates is available. And then there are other legal options that could be available to enforce the obligations of the Election Commission to make sure that ballots are available at each precinct. He said the Mississippi Code provides that election commissioners must make sufficient ballots available to each precinct ahead of Election Day. And so there are opportunities potentially to enforce that obligation if necessary. He said they're not completely ruling out filing a lawsuit to make sure those obligations are met. The group said they hope to discuss what changes are needed and avoid legal action. So wouldn't that be something? But this is a big deal. We have Republican lawmakers here in the capital city of Jackson that do all kinds of different things to try to mitigate the right to vote. And especially in this predominantly black community. Jackson may be 82% black, and they're always searching for ways to keep that vote down. And so this is a really important story. It's gotten a lot of publicity, and we'll keep you posted on that as we move along. Another story, this one from WLBT, a search underway for a person responsible for the shooting death of a West Jackson man on yesterday morning. Around 8:45, residents say the sounds of gunshot echoed through the area around Turner and Truman Streets. It's just so hurting and saddening, said Geraldine Hubbard. They be shooting out here all the time. But this time, Hubbard said gunfire on Turner Street resulted in the death of her parents' next-door neighbor. She was visiting her parents Tuesday morning when her father told her he heard gunfire. She went next door to check. I walked, and when I walked in, I seen the door wide open, and I called his name. I said, Tony, Tony, and he never responded. So I ended up calling 911. Um, so lots of shooting going on. You know, we reported on the Sizzling in Mississippi show on Monday night that we're about 8 homicides less this calendar year than we were last calendar year. But here's another one right here. So we'll see. We'll see how we wind up in relation to last year. You know, the last 2 years per capita, Jackson, Mississippi was the highest homicide rate in the United States of America per capita. Also, WLBT shares it was a chaotic scene inside the Hinds County Courthouse on December 7th, with a fight spilling out onto the steps. This has been all over the news. The Crump family said it was lack of oversight from law enforcement that caused punches to be thrown. It like the Hatfields and McCoys, these two families, we were simply trying to go home. They came up behind us and accosted us. That's what took place, said Cedric Crump, the brother of Letitia Crump Coleman. He said the huge fight started when the bailiffs inside the courtroom dismissed the two families almost immediately after one another, rather than, spreading that out and delaying that. Both families were there for a hearing for Derek Coleman, the husband of 46-year-old Latasha Crump Coleman. The Jackson woman has been missing since July. Coleman was in court for violating a no-contact order filed against him in 2022 before his wife's disappearance. Judge Johnny Daniels denied his appeal and sent it back to the lower courts. After the ruling, the two families were dismissed, but as both parties were standing in the lobby, words were exchanged and a fight broke out. We shift a little bit now more towards the overall Mississippi picture. And, we never come on the air without sharing with you that today is just another day that no elected Republicans in our Republican-dominated legislature have called for hearings on the largest government fraud case in Mississippi history. I might ask you, are they fraudulent? Are they malfeasant in their duties? The largest fraud case in history, brought about by Republican elected officials and their appointees, and yet they don't hold any hearings. Are they fulfilling their statutory duties? Are they fulfilling their moral obligations? I would submit to you that these Republican legislators, all the way to the top, are malfeasant, with no exceptions. There's no reason why somebody like Delbert Hosemann, who so many people want to say is a, upstanding good guy, why isn't he called for hearings if he's an upstanding good guy? Where's his moral lens on this? They want to keep quiet about it. They want to push it under the rug as soon as possible. We believe digital is really not okay with that, and we're going to keep reminding you of that. The Democrats did hold a couple of hearings. The Republicans have held none. And nobody speaks out on it. That they speak, in passing, but they don't do any deliberate actions. And open themselves up to questioning from people that understand what's gone on here. They try to insulate themselves from the deeds either of themselves or some of their colleagues, because this fraud case could not have happened with just the knowledge of a former governor Phil Bryant, current governor Tate Reeves, current Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann, the former Speaker Gunn. I guess he got a few days left on his watch. This stuff just couldn't have happened without these people and many more knowing about it. So this is sad. This is the kind of stuff that makes Mississippi sizzle, when you steal from the poor and take those funds that are not yours to do with what you want with, and you apply them to, your pet projects and stuff. It's just wrong. It's illegal. It is certainly fraud, and it is certainly immoral. And all these people be calling themselves Christians. Absolutely not. Absolutely not Christian whatsoever. Mississippi Today tells us that all but 2 of the 200 skilled nursing facilities in the state licensed to provide medical care from registered nurses would need to increase staffing levels under federal regulations the Biden administration proposed in September, according to data analyzed by Mississippi Today, USA Today, and Big Local News at Stanford University. So that's the line with the national trend. Over the first quarter of 2023, from January to March, less than 1% of skilled nursing facilities in the whole U.S. Met the draft rules, two core standards of provider care. Biden accepted public comment from the executive order through November 6th. The Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services is the agency responsible for reviewing more than the 40,000 public comments made about writing in what the final rule will be, and can take anywhere from months to years. 60 days after the final rule is published in the Federal Registrar, the first phase in staggered implementation will begin. So the president is trying to increase registered nurses in these skilled nursing facilities in order to better care for patients. And we're way behind the curve on that. Definitely in Mississippi, but also in other states all across the country. Just one more story here at the Mississippi level, and then we'll dip out for a commercial. This is on Monday. Attorneys interrogated former NFL quarterback Brett Favre about his involvement in the Mississippi welfare scandal. They say for about 8 hours. The question centered on how Favre lobbied welfare officials for federal grant funds to support the construction of a volleyball stadium at the University of Southern Mississippi and a pharmaceutical startup company in which the athlete was investing. The scheduled deposition, which happened in Hattiesburg, relates to the ongoing civil lawsuit, not criminal proceedings. Favre is one of 47 defendants in a civil case that the Mississippi Department of Human Services, the state's safety net agency, filed in an attempt to recoup $77 million in misspent or stolen welfare funds. So Favre certainly a part of that. All kinds of text messages available. No criminal proceedings against. Now, you had some key players in all this, appointees and sub-grant recipients pleading guilty already. And they're going to want to have the least sentence they can have, so they're singing. They're singing. So it's only a matter of time. I mean, here we are now, a month past the general election. The incumbent governor was reelected. So I don't know. I give it to February or March before we see a substantial shift in how we're going about this case here. We'll see how that goes. So let's dip out now for a couple commercials, and then we'll be right back with you.
Have you had your Earthblend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee. To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Are you dreaming of becoming an entrepreneur, but you're not sure where or how to start? At Entrepreneurs Academy 101, our online program will guide you step by step on how to start and grow your own business. We offer courses such as how to write a business plan, how to create a budget, and so much more. Our online training program is designed for you to learn at your own pace. And there's no set order to complete this program. Because our academy is online, you have the choice to learn with a group, with friends, or individually. Upon completion of the entire curriculum, you will receive a certificate of achievement to acknowledge that you have completed the training needed to become a successful entrepreneur. So enroll today to design the life that you love. Contact your entrepreneur coach, Brenda Myers, at 601-672-0695 or visit our website at www.entrepreneursacademy101.com for more information.
Welcome back to We Believe Digital Newsbreak. Glad to have you joining us. Come to find out, one last story on the the state level. Coming from the Associated Press in Jackson, the constitutional right to equal treatment under the law is at the center of a months-long legal fight over the state-run court in part of Mississippi's majority black capital city of Jackson. You know, that's all part of that dreaded HB 1020, the Trojan horse legislation that marched right into this city. It's a bad, bad thing. Parts of it are, you know, it was signed into law. Parts of it were have moved forward and are taking place right now. Other parts still caught up in the courts. So a federal judge is set to hear arguments on December 19th over the Capitol Complex Improvement District Court, which is scheduled to be created January 1st. Wow. 10 days before, and we're holding that hearing. The new court would be led by a state-appointed judge and prosecutors and would be the equivalent of a municipal court handling misdemeanor cases. At least that's what they say, and at least that's what it would be in the beginning, wink, wink. Trojan horse. Municipal judges and prosecutors in Mississippi are typically elected officials. But legislators who created the CCID said it was part of a package to fight crime. So, you know, do you think that the crime has receded any in Jackson since this thing went into effect with the policing side of it on July 1st? Do you see any difference in the crime in Jackson? They're throwing millions and millions of taxpayers' dollars at a state run and run essentially by the governor through the public safety commissioner Sean Tindall and his appointed, not elected, appointed Capitol Police Chief Bo. Bo Luckey, the white Capitol Police Chief, appointed, and not elected. You know, they just decided that they're going to insert their own damn police department in here, and now they have jurisdiction throughout Jackson, throughout much of Hinds County, and even in other places too. They just decided they were going to do it, and they did it. The heck with the norms, the heck with the rules, the heck with the fact that Jackson already has a police department, already has a police chief, obviously appointed through the mayor who was elected. You know, but these guys want to go about things differently. So imagine that. No. Hey, can we sit down at the table and talk about this? What can we do at the legislative, at the state level to be helpful, to make policing more effective in Jackson, to help reduce the crime? How can we help? What can we do? No. That's not the way these white superiority oppressors do things. That's just not the way they do business. They take over. They do what they want. The heck with the rule of law. They create their own new law to do what they want. Massive Trojan horse. Just the beginning of more and more takeovers. You know, these critters have attempted to take over Jackson Public Schools. They're still in the process of trying to take over the Jackson Airport. They try to take over our water. They try to take over our 1% sales tax. Now they're trying to take over policing. You know, It's only a matter of time before Jackson Police Department finds itself completely subordinate to these people that have just been injected in here because that's what they want to do. Because they're white people and they're in charge and they're drunk on their own power. And they really, they just can't abide any kind of black leadership. They just can't abide. That's the sad reality here in Jackson, Mississippi, the state capital. Pathetic. Just so immoral. The national news, the Supreme Court on Wednesday this morning agreed to hear an appeal brought by a man charged with offenses relating to the January 6, 2021 assault on the Capitol. This case could have a major impact on the criminal prosecution of former President Donald Trump. It's interesting. Criminal prosecution of Trump. No criminal prosecution of these guys that stole the $74 million earmarked for the poorest citizens in Mississippi. No criminal charges on that, but criminal charges here, as there should be. The justices will hear a case brought by defendant Joseph Fisher seeking to dismiss a charge accusing him of obstructing an official proceeding, namely the certification by Congress of President Joe Biden's election victory, which was disrupted by a mob of Trump supporters, as we know all too well. The Supreme Court has now took up a high-stakes legal battle that could lead to a definitive decision on whether the drug most commonly used for medication abortions will continue to be easily available, including by mail. The court agreed to weigh appeals from the Biden administration and drug maker Danco, defending several FDA decisions that made it easier to access and use mifepristone. Danco makes the brand version of the pill, Mifeprex. The justices will hear oral arguments early next year with a ruling date by the end of June is what they're saying, what they're telling us now. Interesting story out of Norfolk, Virginia, where I lived for Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Portsmouth for, 35 plus years. A military-themed brewery will open in Virginia despite some community opposition over alleged racist and homophobic remarks of a former Navy SEAL who has a small ownership stake in the business. Norfolk City's council voted 6-1 Tuesday to approve permits for Armed Forces Brewing Company, tap room and distribution facility. Armed Forces Brewing Company, which will be just a few miles from the nation's largest naval base. The city council bucked recommendations by the City Planning Commission, oh, that's interesting, and a local neighborhood association, the Voice of the People, that's interesting, to deny the permits, while many residents said the brewery would be a terrible fit. They argue its ownership doesn't reflect the diversity of the U.S. military, veterans, or the liberal-leaning city on the Chesapeake Bay. Norfolk is a ever so slightly black majority city. I want to say only about 80,000 residents. The brewery markets itself with politically conservative ads. You see where this is going. Its leadership said the resistance was purely over its owner's political views or cherry-picked social media posts made by minority shareholders. So, interesting story. They want to take on the benefits of association with the military, and yet racist and homophobic remarks. The community where it will be, they don't want them there. They're speaking out, but the elected officials are moving ahead with it anyway. How about that? Story out of Tacoma, Washington. Lawyers for 3 Washington state police officers charged in the 2020 death of a black man told the jury Tuesday that his death was the result of drug use, not excessive force. That included officers choking, shocking like taser, and holding him face down. That didn't have anything to do with his death, they're saying. It was his drug use. Does that sound familiar at all? Manuel Ellis was addicted to meth, and it caused him to be violent, unpredictable, paranoid, said Wayne Frick, who represents Tacoma police officer Christopher Burbank. Quote, this is a situation where he created his own death. That's what Frick said during closing arguments in the officer's 9-week-long trial on murder and manslaughter. It was his behavior that forced the officers to use force against him because he created a situation that required them to act. So I guess we'll hear what the jury has to say about that. We'll keep you posted. Maybe we'll know by the time we come back on air on Friday at noon. A story out of Los Angeles, sad story about a great black actor. Brooklyn Nine-Nine actor Andre Braugher has died after a brief illness. According to his publicist, he was 61 years old. Details were not available. The representative Jennifer Allen confirmed the news, saying that he had died on Monday. His two best-known roles were police officers. Braugher won an Emmy for his depiction of police detective Frank Pembleton on the 1990s series Homicide: Life on the Street. And he came to be known to a new generation of TV viewers in 2013 as a deadpan, but he had mastery of deadpan, police captain on NBC's Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Braugher was the actor the others in the profession would always aspire to be, NBC Entertainment said in a statement late Tuesday. In addition to his prowess as a dramatic actor, his comedy chops were also on full display as the determined and passionate Captain Holt in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. We will miss him tremendously. Rest in peace, Andre Braugher. Just two stories at the global level, and you know already what one of them is for sure, and that's the Israeli-Hamas war. And as always, we turn to NBC News in the section that they consider what we know. The United Nations General Assembly voted overwhelmingly to demand humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. That was yesterday. The United States, Israel, and 8 other countries, Austria, Czech, Guatemala, Liberia, Micronesia, Nauru, Papua New Guinea, and Paraguay were the only ones to come out against the non-binding resolution, come out against a humanitarian ceasefire. The United States is against a humanitarian ceasefire. As international condemnation of Israel's military campaign in Gaza grows, President Joe Biden offered his harshest criticism yet of Israel's right-wing government, saying that Prime Minister Netanyahu, quote, has to change, and this government in Israel is making it very difficult for him to move, unquote. More than 18,400 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza, 2/3 of them women and children. Think that through, people. More than 18,400 Palestinians, the land of Palestine, have been killed in Gaza, 2/3 of them women and children, according to the territory's health officials. Aid into the besieged enclave has largely stopped. The UN said that an estimated half of its 2.2 million people face starvation. Israeli military officials say 115 soldiers have been killed during the country's ground invasion in Gaza, which came after Hamas militants killed 1,200 people and seized about 240 hostages on October 7th. Delegates at the COP28 International Climate Summit agreed today to move away from fossil fuel consumption in a first-of-its-kind deal signaling the possible end of the oil age. Although some participants said the pact did not go far enough. The agreement announced by the president of the COP28 meeting, Sultan Al Jaber of the United Arab Emirates, to a standing ovation, commits the international community to avoid the worst effects of climate change and to move to a low-carbon future. It is the first time a COP summit has agreed to move away from fossil fuels, but the language stops short of calling for them to be phased out, to the disappointment of some nations. The agreement was subject to 2 weeks of complex negotiations and calls for meaningful and sustained action to reduce carbon emissions to limit global average temperature rises to no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit above the pre-industrial levels. So that's your news from today on Newsbreak. We thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you back here Friday at noon. Take good care of yourselves and each other.